What's up, guys? Welcome to the exciting world of computer programming brought to you by Simply How. I'm very glad that you joined me again, and I sincerely hope these tutorials are helping you master programming using P5.js. So without wasting your time, let us jump to today's lesson. Now the question is, what is our first project? We are going to start with shapes and colors. But before we start drawing shapes and colors, it is better to open your account. Okay, I'm going to show you how to open your account, how to do it. Let's go to our web editor, and I know you know how to go there. So you choose the editor, and it will take you to another page. Now you go to the top left of your web browser. So there is login and sign up. You click sign up. And username, you put your username. You can choose any name. In this case, I've decided to choose Simply How. And the email, you put your email address. And then you choose the password. And here there is suggested password. You can decide to use or choose your own password and then confirm and then sign up. If you have GitHub account, you can use that one. Okay, now here you can decide to save the password so that you don't have to put your password every time when you open P5 web editor. Now here is the username of our account, and this one is the name of our project. And you can change it if you want. You can just click there and put the name you want, because it is auto-generated. So another thing that I would love to show is how to change the theme. Okay, so you go to setting and then click, and you see there is general setting, accessibility, but you go under general setting, there is theme light, dark, and high contrast. I personally prefer high contrast because it's a great option even for people with color blindness. Things are seen more clearly. You can appreciate it. Okay. So this is our web editor, and you can see it looks much better. Now, let's go back to our project of today, which is about shapes. Example of shapes, or if someone asks you, can you mention shapes you know? There is rectangle, triangle, cycle, and many other. Now, we are going to create different shapes, but how are we going to create? Do you remember I said we will use function from a JavaScript library? Now, what is a library? Library is simply a collection of resources. But here is a collection of codes that perform a certain function, and we're going to use them to write our project. We don't have to create our own function, so we just pick from a library. So in this case, we go back to our web editor, and you can see the code, and there's a function setup, function draw, and the background. Now we can use the function cycle, which actually is in the library. I will show you how to use those function in next tutorial. So we put our parameters. So we put 300, 200, and under the background, I want to change the color of the background, so I'll put red. And I'll try to run. So when I run, I want you to see something. Before I mentioned about console. So if you run the code, you see down here, the console, it shows you if you make any mistake. And then try to change, because after reading, it tells that the cycle was expecting at least 3 arguments, but there we put only 2 arguments. But after changing and add the comma and run again, we can see now the cycle. Okay, now let's change the values. X, if you change the first value, you see the cycle go more to the left, which is, if you change another value, it's moved to the left. And if you change the second value and run the code, it goes down. And if you change again, if you put 200, it goes, if you run the code, you can see how it changed. So you have to play with these numbers, try to experiment by your own, and this is how things are going to be more interesting, because you keep on trying to see how things are being done. Okay, now let's talk about coordinates. Guys, in spite, P5.js uses a group of functions to create or draw shapes, but these shapes are made up with or using lines, by which if you master coordinates of lines, you can create complex shapes and be more comfortable. Now, the question will be, what is a coordinate plane? A coordinate plane is a 2-dimensional plane formed by intersecting of a vertical line called y-axis and a horizontal line called x-axis. So these are perpendicular lines that intersect each other at 0, and this point is called the origin. So the axis cuts the coordinate plane into 4 equal sections, and each section is known as a quadrant. So you will realize that the previous section, when you're using web editor of a P5.js, is formed using quadrant number 1. So when you start from the origin, when locating a point in a coordinate plane, count in either positive, which is right, or negative left direction along the x-axis to determine a point is horizontal position. Points is horizontal position. And also you can either count in either up, which is positive, or negative, which is in down direction along the y-axis, to determine a point is vertical position. So these are things that you have to know whenever you draw a shape using a web editor. So we're going to use shape. We're going to use coordinate planes to determine or to draw shapes. And these are examples. For example, coordinate to draw line, coordinate to draw a triangle, coordinate to draw a cycle, coordinate to draw a width. So these are examples of the coordinates. So this is how you're going to work on web editor. So now let's jump into project number 1 by creating a rectangular, and we're going to use functions that are in the library. We don't have to create our own function. Are you ready, guys? Okay, now let's jump into our first project. Now, our first shape we're going to draw is a rectangle. A rectangle is 4-sided, closed shape with every angle at 90 degrees. And actually, by default, the first 2 parameters set the location of the upper left corner, and the third set for the width, and the fourth set for the height. Now, let's begin by doing it, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do it. So open your web editor, and after opening web editor, now let's create our first shape. Now, the first thing I would advise is you delete everything you see, and then we start writing code from afresh. So you select and then delete. After deleting, then we are going to set things up by writing a function using small letter, then leave space, and then type setup, and after that put bracket, and then put curly bracket again, and then you will click enter and after clicking enter, then you have to write function again. After writing function again, now you put a space and then write draw. Now this is how code should look like, but we want to draw our first shape, right? Where we have to draw it on a canvas. So what we need to do is we need to set a canvas so we can have a place to draw a shape. Now we go to function and function setup, and then put the cursor in between and click enter so that we have a space to write our codes. Now let's write create canvas, which is a function in our library, and then we put brackets, and inside bracket is where we are going to set the size of a canvas. So let's put a semicolon after those bracket, and after putting semicolon, then we click we put the cursor between the bracket, and then we put the size of a canvas. So you can decide to put 400 by 400, or you can put, I decide now to put height 800 by 800, and then you can decide to put any number. And then inside the function draw, let's put a background, a color of our canvas. So inside a bracket, you write background, and then after writing the word background, inside bracket is where we're going to use set background color by writing color code. So I prefer to use name instead of number. So we have number, for example, that 220 is a number, but I prefer by putting apostrophe, then type the color, which is red, and then after that, now we can run our code. After running a code, you can see now on the preview side, the color of our canvas now is red, so the background is going to be red. Now let's write function rectangle. Let me remind you, a rectangle, as we said, is a four-sided closed shape. By default, the first two parameters set the location of the upper left corner, and the third set the width, and the fourth set the height. So these are the parameters that we have to put inside those brackets after the word. Or inside the brackets, we are going to add. We're going to add 400, or let me change, put 200, comma, then 100, or I should put here 100, then comma, then 300. Then after that, let me try to add another 100 and then run. So you see the rectangle over there. Hope you get it, and I want you to try it by yourself. Now you can pause the video and then try to do it by yourself from the start till now, and then try to draw a cycle. Now let's do cycle. Delete rectangle by selecting and then delete, and then put the function cycle and bracket, and then inside bracket put 100 slash 300 comma 200. Actually not slash, it's comma. and then try to run the code. So you get a cycle. You can change putting different number as long as you know from the start. I talk about the coordinates, how they work. If you master that one, you won't have a problem. Then you can click and save. You go to File, Save, and your file save. You can click to save your work, and once you save, you go to the sketch saved, auto saved enable, and then you go to my sketches, and then the first one I did some before. Now the first one and is what we have done already. So if you run it, you get that one. So how are you going to share the sketch? You go to File again, then you, after saving, actually you get another option of share, or you can download. So if you click share, you get the link that you can copy and share. So if you want me to see what you've done, you can just copy one of it and then post under the comment section. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.